what's good? It's your girlfriend. And today is Friday and it is another rendition of Girl, I'm gonna take a black card, a segment in which I review movies. And now officially we're just doing movies on this Friday one. You know, Mondays kind of transformed into hip hop album reviews. So, you know, we're doing them all, okay? But Friday is mostly about the movies, and today we're going to talk about a movie that has been suggested a few times on this channel, and that is South Central. Now, looking into this movie, seeing what it's about, seeing what people say about it, it apparently has an 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert himself gave this movie a 3 out of 4 rating. Okay, he said this was good. Okay, Roger Ebert thought this was an amazingly good movie, and you know, I'm like, when it comes to these hood movies, I realize that sometimes acting isn't always the best. Sometimes storyline isn't fleshed out enough. Sometimes pacing, who knows what that is. You know, this movie, especially the beginning of this movie, pissed me off. I couldn't, this is the third movie in Girl from the Sacred Black Card history where I could not finish the movie the first time. I had to start watching. I had to take a break and watch it the next day, okay? Belly and Jason's Lyrics is the only other two movies that I was like, I can't do this, but I power through. And I wore a shirt of Boys in the Hood because I wanted to remember a much better movie, okay? Now, I know I'm probably gonna make some people mad about this because this movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So people love this movie, okay? So I'm not even gonna sit here and talk too much about why I hate it before I get into the movie and actual description of it, so I can really tell you why I hate it, okay? So let's get into it. So the movie starts off with just a black screen and credits, which this is the first time in like movie history that I've seen credits that were not like in a montage or like showing anything. It's just a black screen. That's it. Okay, and so we cut to summer of 1982, and Bobby gets out of jail. Okay, his boys pick him up from jail, and he seems like he come out of a courthouse actually, because I've seen jails. That's not usually what they look like when you get out of them. But I digress. Okay, so he's getting out, and his boys come pick him up, and they tell the officer, come over here, and they spray him with beer. And I'm like, you know how likely that would be that cop would not have shot them? We in America, okay? So whatever, okay. So we're off of that, and his boys telling him about Deuce, right? And how there's a bunch of gangs springing up now, and you know, we gotta make sure Deuce is heavy in the hood or whatever. And this is when almost immediately, I realized nobody in this movie can act. There's 2 people in this movie that can kinda act, and they don't come up to the end of the movie. Everybody else in this movie can't act. And one of the biggest people that can't act in this movie is his friend named Loco, who, I know he's supposed to be acting crazy, but like, come on, dog. Like, this isn't acting. You're just being over the top. Anyway, we're gonna get past that. So they talk about how Bobby he had a kid while he was in prison, and he know the name of the kid. He ain't know the name of his own kid because his girl stopped contacting him, right? So they get to the projects or whatever. He see his girl, and she's with the Smackman, right? And you know, they talk about how he's selling that PCP, which it's a lot. Okay. And Ray does not like the Smackman because he's talking about how he's taking over where they're at, and they are the only people that can sell in their own neighborhoods. And we're gonna get to my griefs with that because they really talk about it in another part of this movie. We gonna get to that. You know, he goes and he talks to his girl. His girl's like, oh, here, meet your child. His name is Jimmy. And he like, why you ain't calling me? And she was like, oh, you know, you've been gone for so long. Like, you left us with nothing. We ain't had nothing to survive or whatever. You know, she was like how she had a baby by herself and that hurt her. And it'd be real good if she could act. Cause she can. But I digress. You know, he meets his son. I'm your daddy, right? And it's laughable. Just just plain laughable. And he's talking about something, you know, everything gonna be all right. I'm home now. I can take care of everything. So then we cut to a gang meeting. And this is when, and I know this is how gangs sometimes really think. And this is why, like, just like with Menace to Society, when I said my piece about that, and so many people in the comments were like, sis, you need to understand, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're right. You're right. This one, because of the acting being so bad, I can't excuse it. Like, at least in Menace to Society, they can actually act. But they talk about how Deuce needs to take over the neighborhood, and they got to take over the school. Okay, my battery died. Anyway, so we cut to the scene, and they're at a gang meeting, and they're talking about how Deuce is gonna take over the neighborhood. They gotta make sure everybody a part of Deuce, and nobody else come in the neighborhood besides Deuce. And you know, they gonna have the high schools give out more deuces than graduates. And granted, I am understanding that a lot of gangs think this way, but it don't make no sense, okay? See, what doesn't make any sense to me is you think that you're saving people and keeping them safe, but you're also pushing drugs into the neighborhood, and you're also making kids steal and go to jail and all this other stuff. And like, I guess it's better than having someone like somebody from another neighborhood come in that you don't know, but you're not helping your community at all. You're actually making it worse. But again, I'm very understanding that that is how gangs work. Like, they really think that they coming through, they gonna take these kids and make sure that they can make sure they're okay and give them money and all this other stuff, but you're also putting them in a life of crime. And they try to touch on that in this movie. And I do mean try, okay? But I digress. So, that's my PSA. Sorry to be on a high horse. We're coming down. Okay, we're off the horse. Anyway, so we see them driving to this place, and they walk in and the music stops. It just stops. One thing I want to say about this movie that makes me so mad, and most bad movies are like this, the music is good. The music is good. It's the only good thing about this movie is the music, and kind of sort of the ending. Not even. Anyway, we're gonna get there. Anyway, so they go into this place, the music stops, and out comes the Smackman, who I think his name is Genie, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever. And they're at his little lair, or his little place where his gang people is at. And I realized, oh boy bought his kid. How you bring your kid? You brought your kid to a club? Okay. Because we're going to get into how many places this kid ends up that it should not. Okay. This kid was doomed from the start. Okay. But they go into this club and they partying or whatever. You know, they partying whatever because, you know, everything comes back together. And the whole thing between the Smackman and them doesn't make any sense, because he seems like he's just like, oh, let's be friends, and they don't like him. And then, so we leave the club, and Bobby's like, yo, I'm about to go with them to go get some work, you know what I'm saying, so that they can sell it. And she like, well, okay, well, you can do that, but you keeping the baby. I'm like, you gonna let him take a baby to get some crack? Parenting, what's going on? It's failing. What's going on here? But anyway, he takes this kid with him. He comes back home, and Smackman kidnaps him and his baby, takes him to his house, to the Smackman's house, his little apartment that's in the projects, and makes him snort some stuff. Smack. Book of sugars. Okay, he makes them snort it with his kid still being there. He high. And they just leave him there. I don't know where this came from, why he did this. I don't understand. So then, one thing that was laughable, especially at this point, is that they try to make seem like some things are happening at night, but you can clearly see the sun coming in through the whatever. So he comes, he sees his girl slumped because she on that PCP, right? And so he gets mad, he goes with the deuces, and they decide they're gonna kill Smackman. Now, they're killing him mainly because he messed with his girlfriend, but you know, we neglect to say that this man made you snort stuff, and that apparently was not upsetting to him. What was upsetting to him was that he messed with his girlfriend. So they take him to where the Smackman is, and they kill him. They kill him. So I'm like, y'all killed the main antagonist in the middle of this movie? Like 15 minutes into the movie, you killed the main antagonist. What was the point? I guess the point point was to get him into jail, because what happens is, you know, he goes into hiding with his girlfriend and the baby, and he like, look, we gotta be in high, and the girlfriend's like, I'm gonna go out, I'm trying to have a good time, like I don't want to be here. And again, she would be a likable character if sis could act, because she can't. But I digress. So he with the kid, and he takes the kid with him with his friends. His friend comes pick him up, they go on driving, and they pick up a hooker with a kid in the car. I mean, this kid is stuck, okay? They pick up a hooker with a kid in the car, and the hooker ends up being a cop. And they tell this hooker all about how they sell drugs, how they could kill somebody, like, and then she ends up being a cop. And arrest them all. So they take them all down to the station, and Bobby gets questioned. They like, what, you know anything about Gene? What's his name? Gene something. Jeannie something. I don't know. I can't find his name. They was like, you know anything about Jeannie? And he like, I don't even know who that is. And they was like, well, we found your fingerprints on this gun. And I was like, hold up. How y'all gang don't know how to get rid of weapons? Like, get rid of evidence? What kind of gang is it? But you don't even know how to get rid of, you don't keep the gun at the scene. You take the gun. They apparently left the gun at the scene and a little potato that they use as a silencer, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but they had all that at the scene, so they had the evidence. They had his fingerprints on everything, so he going to jail for 10 years. He don't snitch, right? So, you know, he gets locked up, you know, and because he doesn't snitch. They asked him about Ray Ray. The Ray Ray had something to do with this. The other boys had something to do with it. He don't snitch. He go to jail. Then we cut to, without any transition, without any like timestamp, to this little boy getting dressed, which we find out is Bobby's son, Jimmy. But he's stealing money from his mom, and his mom is strung out with some white man, her bed, whatever. And he goes out with the little kids, and he's talking to them, and none of these kids can act. But child actors usually can act. There's only been one or two in the movies that I watched for this so far that can act, but most of them can't act. No. So they're horrible. Ray Ray comes up, who was, I think I mentioned who Ray Ray is, didn't I? I had to. Okay, Ray Ray comes up. He was like, yo, little boy, you know, hey, J-Rock, because they call him J-Rock now instead of Jimmy. He was like, you know, you want to come get some money for me, blah, blah, blah. He gives him $100. And it's like, you know, you can get more than that. All you got to do is steal these radios for me, and, you know, that's the business. So he starts going out stealing radios. So then we go to jail. We see, you know, Bobby's in jail. He lifting weights, and his boy Loco, the one that can't act, he comes in, and he's talking about, you know, saving him from the Aryans, because apparently Aryans are able to be negotiated with in jail. I've never been to jail, but okay. So, you know, he says, no, you can't get him. He Deuce, and, you know, the Deuce is in jail or protecting other Deuces, and they kind of press into the whole Deuce thing while he in jail, and how he eventually, spoiler alert, ends up getting out of it. But honestly, they don't do it enough to make me care. Like, the whole Deuce thing would have made more sense if they would have spent more time talking about it while he was out of jail. Because technically, so far, all we know, he went to one gang meeting. Him and Ray Ray were talking about how they gonna build the Deuce up in the neighborhood, whatever. Then they like, yo, the Deuce, we gotta kill this man to get him out of our streets. They kill the guy, Genie. He goes to jail for it. In no other way do we see that the Deuce has done anything to help him out. We see his family is destitute while he's in jail, so they're not helping his family out. In no way, shape, or form should he be loyal to these Deuce people, because they didn't know putting him in jail. Now, granted, I know you're not supposed to snitch, all that other stuff, whatever, but they never really established the whole Deuce connection other than that one little meeting and him killing somebody. Like, I didn't feel like it was fleshed out enough, but whatever. So he goes to jail. He sees Loco. Loco is, you know, getting threatened by the Aryans. He saves him. He's like, he's Deuce, whatever. Then we cut to, we go out, we see his son stealing radios. And Loco ends up telling him that Ray Ray got his son out here selling radios. And Bobby's like, my son? He got my son doing this? So he kind of mad, right? So we see back out with Jimmy. Jimmy out there, he's looking in on this couple who about to get it in. And I was like, please don't tell me he had peeping Tom too. But no, thank God, because ew. He goes and tries to steal this old man's radio. Old man come out with a gun. Just took me aback. He shoot the crap out of this little boy, and he is out, okay? So they get a stretcher and they arrest the older guy, because I mean, technically he was just trying to save his property, but they arrest him. they get Jimmy in the hospital, and he is up, okay? Like, he is bad, okay? So he's in the hospital, and they are trying to make sure that he stays alive, essentially. He comes back to jail, and Bobby knows that his son is in the hospital. The gang comes up to him and is like, you know, Deuce gonna take care of him. He was like, no, Deuce is why my son is in the hospital in the first place. Like, Deuce is the reason why he there. I'm kind of over hearing about Deuce when Deuce almost got my son killed. And the Deuce people kind of like, what you mean? Like, you trying to get out the gang or whatever, and they feel like they ain't really gotta protect him no more. They ain't really gonna keep him safe no more up in the jail. So we come back to the hospital. The boy's alive, thankfully, and his mom comes up to visit him, and he's like, can he talk? And they were like, nah, he can't talk. Sometimes he's too weak to even get up. And they were like, all right, well, let me know when he can talk. And she leaves. I'm like, girl, you wonder why your son... And one thing she says to them is like, well, you know, his dad's in jail, his grandfather's in jail, so he gonna end up going to jail. So what am I gonna do? Be a mom, maybe. Take care of your kids. Stop getting on that drugs, maybe. Like, I'm not shaming drug people who have addiction. I'm not shaming people who have struggles raising their children. I don't have a kid, so I don't know, and I don't want to know. But my thing is, like, she was so dismissive, like, yeah, okay, well, he gonna end up in jail anyway. So let me go back to smoking my PCP. Like, girl, take care of your kid. He almost died. She still ain't got no... Anyway, this is around the time where I had to take a break from this movie because I was like, it's too much. It's too much. So we see back in jail. This is the next morning when I wake up and I'm like, okay, let me finish this movie. We see back in jail that since he done this, the Deuces got the Aryans to beat him up. So the Aryans come up, they try to beat him up, but he beats up the guy who's trying to beat him up. It's complicated. I try to put a clip in here, but he ends up beating him up. He gets put in solitary. We cut back to the hospital. His son is feeling better, and he gets wheeled to the game room by this nurse, who is again one of the only people in this movie that knows how to act. And they're talking about ping pong. He's like, she wants him to play ping pong. He calls it honky pong. I was like, oh god, okay. And he can't. The kid really can't act. It's so bad. It's so bad. And one thing I realized, especially towards the end of this movie, is that I think I would like this movie if the people could actually act. I really do. But I digress. He starts playing ping pong and he starts getting good at it, and you know, it's cute. Then we come back to Bobby in jail. He's talking to this dude who's wearing, like, you know, African type stuff. I don't know if he was African or he was kind of like, you know, back in the 90s when people were kind of doing that African look. I mean, people do it now too still. But he talks to him in his prison cell because he gets out of solitary. He gets in a cell with him, and you know, they start to bond. And he says one thing that made me die laughing. He was like, the world's been showing you its booty all for a long time. I was like, who says that? It's been showing you his booty. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so then we see Bobby getting kind of harassed by the Aryans, and they say that they own him because the Deuces traded him for some cigarettes or whatever. I don't know. Stupid. So they get him in this corner, and the African guy and all his little friends who are also about that, you know, that life, come to save him. And they're like, look, we can get you cigarettes that you traded him for, and he'll do some stuff from you, and we're trading him in. And so we see in the prison cell when they get back to the cell, he's like, I did this to help you, and the way you can pay me back is by reading. And he tells him to start reading books. So then we come back to the hospital, and we see Jimmy is about to get out. He has a social worker and a cop there to take him to a detention center, and him and the nurse kind of had a bonding moment. It wasn't really fleshed out that much, but you can kind of tell she really liked him, and she was playing ping pong with him and trying to make him get into better spirits, and it was cute. And I really wish they played more on this later on in the movie, because I feel like this could have made parts at the end of this movie make more sense, but it doesn't. He gonna get there. So he gets out, he goes to the detention center. We cut back to jail. We see that Bobby's hanging out with this African dude. I never got his name. I'll put it here. I keep calling him African dude. I don't even think he's really African. He just had like the garb on. Anyway, and he's like, Bobby's like, why are you trying to help me? Like, why are you trying to help me? And he was like, look, you know, I had a son, and you know, my son, I tried to control him. I tried to make sure that he didn't do anything wrong. He never got caught up in that in a bad life, and I pushed him away. He got with some bad people, and he ended up dying. He was like, I can't save my son, but I can help you save your son. Your son, you know, you're a father, you need to be there for your son. You need to make sure that he's educated and understanding and doesn't get caught up in that. I want to help you. And this is one of the only moving moments in this movie because the guy, the African kind of guy, can actually kind of act, okay? So it was very dynamic. You can see the passion, the upset in his voice and what he was saying. It was very well portrayed that he wants to help him so that his son doesn't end up like you know, he can help him save his son essentially. So Bobby starts reading these books and he's trying to get more educated. He's reading like Marcus Garvey, W.B. Du Bois, and he's trying to teach him how to be a man, not to be like a thug or, you know, trying to be gangster, but be a man, be a person who is able to support themselves, support their own, be, you know, sometimes be nonviolent, turn the other cheek, not end up in a life that's going to disintegrate for them, and actually live an upstanding life, right? And so, you know, when he killed the Smackman in the beginning, they gave him it's a heart tattoo, which I thought it was a teardrop tattoo until they said it was a heart tattoo, and I was like, really, a heart? How gangster is that? Anyway, so they removed the tattoo from his face, and we find out he's about to go out for parole. He goes up for parole, and he gets out, which, yay! And you know, the guy's like, you know, you have a new attitude, go out there, save your son. You know, we don't need another black man in this jail or in a grave. Please go out there and save your son. And he's like, I'm gonna do it. So then, I'm not gonna go completely in order because I don't really think it's necessary at this point. I will dismiss my notes because the ending of this movie makes me so angry. This middle part, so the beginning of the movie was horribly acted, stupid, didn't make any sense, was unnecessary to kill the guy in the beginning of the movie. Okay, bam. Middle section of the movie, good. We see Jimmy growing up. He's dealing with the, you know, should I be a gangster or should I not be a gangster? We got Bobby dealing with, you know, being in jail, and he's dealing with wanting to save his son. Well put together. The ending of this movie is so upsetting because it could have been good. It could have redeemed this whole movie. But Bobby gets out of jail. He goes to see his girlfriend. His girlfriend is slumped out, and he's like, where's Jimmy? She like, I don't know. And so he puts her in bed because she's slumped out, gets her some coffee, and he starts reading the mail and realizes Jimmy got taken away a while ago and she ain't really did nothing. And he's mad. He's like, okay. So he goes to the detention center to see his son, and he's like, can I talk? Can I see him? And rightfully so, because this is how it usually goes. You can't just walk into a detention center and see somebody. Like, you have to be on a visitation list. But the guy lets him see him and lets him see his son, and his son comes in, and rightfully so, he does not know that that's his father because, mind you, he went to jail when he was a whole baby and he's never met him. So he's like, yeah, I'm your daddy. And, you know, he's like, yeah, okay, you my dad, whatever. And he's telling him, like, we need to go kill that guy that shot me. And he's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not gonna kill him. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get better. And he's like, oh, you're not my dad. My dad would have killed him. He killed such and such back in the day, yada, yada, yada. And so he's still about that hood life. He's still trying to be about the hood life, at least. And he's realizing that he's losing his son. He's like, oh my God. Like, you know, come on. You can't be doing this. This is not the way we should be going. And that's why I said I really wished that the part where the nurse could have came in, because that was trying to give him more of a connection with somebody, like that someone cared about him, and maybe that could have helped with what happens in the end, because it could have flashed back to him feeling that love from her. But no, that never comes back. So whatever, he's still about that gangster life. He's still trying to be about that gangster life. And so he leaves, Bobby leaves, he goes back home, and he falls asleep, and he wakes up and the police are coming in because his son escaped from the detention center. So he escapes from the detention center, and Bobby's looking for him everywhere. And again, more people who don't know how to act. We can skip past all that part. So he finally realizes that he's at Ray Ray's place. So he with Ray Ray and them, and he goes to Ray Ray's place, and Bear, who was the other guy who was his friend back in the day, is with him. And essentially, one thing that I didn't like about this movie, and I guess this happens in gangs, y'all can let me know, is that Ray Ray was talking all this ish about how he owes him, and he's the reason why they're successful because he killed their main competition. So he is the reason why they had money, and completely does not care about his family, does not care to help his son. All he wants to do is get his son back in this gang, and he doesn't want his son to be in a gang. And so Ray Ray's like, well, F you, like, we gonna kill you, essentially. So they bring out the guy who shot Jimmy and tells Jimmy, kill him. And Bobby's pleading, no, Jimmy, don't kill him. We can't kill people. Like, we can't. He starts monologuing and talking about all the stuff that he read in these books. And again, I would have liked this movie if it would have played on the fact that, you know, Jimmy had a moment of having someone care about him. And, you know, now he has his father and he can have that. His father is trying to be there for him. And I think they were trying to present the stuff that Bobby learned in these books to be what would change his son, but I really don't think that mattered because she's a 10-year-old boy. Like, he does not understand Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois, okay? Like, I feel like it should have been like the love from the nurse and the love from his father could change him. Like, that would have been better, but whatever. So he's still like with Ray Ray, and Ray Ray's like, come on, shoot him, shoot him. And so, long story short, Bear tries to beat up Bobby to make him shut up. Bobby beats up Bear, takes his gun, points the gun at Ray Ray. Ray Ray got Jimmy pointing the gun at his dad, and he like, come on, let my son go. I just want my son to come back. I want him to not be about this life, blah, blah, blah. And Ray Ray, for some reason, lets him go. Now, we can say, Ray Ray, he owes Bobby, and that's maybe why he stopped. But he was really just not caring about that like 5 minutes ago. What changed Ray Ray's mind to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna let your son go now. What? There was no real like conflict. There was no real like expectation, because there was nothing that was making me think that he had a change of heart. There was nothing that made that happen. So if you like this movie, oh, and that's the end. Essentially, Ray Ray lets Jimmy go. Jimmy comes to his father, they hug. The old guy runs off because he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Okay. And that's the end of the movie. I really wish this movie was fleshed out more. There's so many things wrong with this movie. Let's start the acting. Horrible. There's only 2 people that can act in this movie. Number 2, the storyline. This storyline could have been good, right? We have the beginning where they kill off the Smackman, right? So they can get control of the streets, right? But Bobby ends up going to jail for it. We could have saw the development of Deuce outside of prison, because we hear about the people in prison, but we don't see how he built it up to be so big and how he neglected his family and how he wasn't really being there for Bobby. We didn't get that conflict of that outside of that. We just cut to his kid being 10 years old. We cut to his kid being in that gang life. We don't really understand why. I mean, I guess to me he's 10, they give him money. Okay. Then we cut to him going to this hospital and connecting with his nurse, and that could have very well been what pushed the ending of this movie for him to have a change of heart, being like, oh, my dad loves me, I had someone else who loved me, you know, and cared for me, and now I can, you know, maybe it is okay to get out of this gang life. But he never really had anything that made him change his mind about being in the gang life, besides his dad being like, let me tell you about Marcus Garvey. And no, like, that's not how that works. It's not how that works. And I really feel like they could have fleshed this out to be a better movie, because it's only an hour and a half. It's only an hour and a half movie, so it could have maybe added on 15 more minutes of developing characters and actually giving plots, developing the plot more and the storyline fleshed out a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, it was 100% unearned. The only good part was the middle. The beginning and the end were horrible. But that's my review. I know a lot of y'all might be mad about this one, which maybe or maybe not, because when I said y'all would be mad about Belly, most people were like, yeah, that movie sucked. And I was like, okay, y'all agree with me, cool. But because this movie got such high ratings everywhere, maybe I'm gonna make some people upset. But yeah, that's my review. If I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, because the middle was good and it could have been a good movie, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Like, it could have been a good movie. This really could have been a good movie, and it just fell way short. If it would have had better acting and better writing, could have been a good movie. It had a good concept. But with that being said, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for other movies, I got a lot of them. So, you know, you might have to wait till the list goes down, but I will get to them. And let me know in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And I'll see you on Monday. Bye.